Hello, everybody. Welcome in to the Apples and Genos Fantasy Hockey Podcast. My name is Nate Groot Niblink. I'm the creator of Apples and Genos, originator of the Zero G Draft Strategy. And in this podcast, Blake and I are going to talk about the biggest hot shots and have nots of the last couple of weeks. Let's get it. And of course, I have your friend and my best friend, the schmuck who knows pockets, Blake Creamer. Blake, how are we feeling tonight?
I feel good. Two schmucks that know puck. Come on, don't sell yourself short, buddy. All right. I'm feeling very good. Nate and I are both having amazing fantasy weeks here. So the smugness per 60 on this episode, it's going to be off the charts. Sorry about that, folks, in advance, but we're feeling fine. It's been a great week for fantasy hockey. Just a fun week in general, especially with that trade, which we were able to dive into on our last pod. And I'm still kind of reeling from that. I don't know. I got to watch both Colorado games. I just wanted to check on our boy, Marty Necas. And I think he's going to be a good fit there. But I also love watching afternoon hockey. Did you get a chance to watch any of the games today?
No, Sundays are usually pretty crazy, but I haven't been able to watch anything today. So I saw like the highlights. I saw the behind the back drop off to Makar and
Oh,
Makar
yeah.
doing his thing. So that was pretty nice to see. But yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is like just confirmation. Like, yeah, this is going to be a guy that they're going to give all the minutes to, and they're
Yep.
going to make it work with Mac. That's what we wanted to see, and that's what we got in the first two games with Marty Necas. Yeah, I echo your sentiments. Like, I was kind of whining about how bad my week was going on Friday, and then I had literally like the biggest Saturday of my life yesterday in multiple leagues, and so I'm still sweating out the experts league here up against 18 skaters, Mark Barber, and we are like within a half a point right now. And I've got Barkov going into the third period against his Hurdle and Lundell. So yeah, it's a tough one. If any of these guys gets a point, that's probably it, right? But it's real close. So that's a fun sweat. I'm in first place in the experts league, so I'm honestly like gonna be okay. Though I can't complain when I have the kind of Saturday that I had, like turning around three different matchups to be potential W's for me at this point. Yeah, I really can't complain. Yeah, the fantasy puck league, it's a 10-point lead, but he's got Spencer Knight, and Spencer Knight's down to nothing, so I'm
Getting
knocking on
rolled.
all the wood right now, but it's headed in a positive direction at this exact moment. And then Kikuffle had, yeah, just massive stuff go right. Perfetti hat trick, Velarde 4-point game today and Boldy 3-assist game today, and
These guys
last
are
night.
winning people their weeks. Like that.
Yeah,
Those are amazing performances.
yeah, huge performance. Actually, Velarde is one that Mark 18 Skaters has against me in experts, so it's going both ways there. But hard to be mad when the overall run out is this good. So, yeah, feeling pretty good. But I think we should get into some newsies. Blake, you ready for this?
Oh, I'm ready, buddy. I love that for you. I'm so happy you're doing well this week, buddy.
Thanks. All right, here we go. John Gibson, upper body injury. Stop me if you've heard this one before. Wasn't able to complete Saturday's game. Cronin thinks he should be fine, but check the status. Yeah, it's hard to trust John Gibson. It just seems like a guy who's constantly dinged up. And the thing with goaltenders is, I do really think that these guys do just get dinged up, right? Like it's a high attrition position. Like even in some of your talks with Kevin Woodley, he's talked about how like goalies are bigger, more pressure on the joints. They're doing styles of goaltending that we hadn't done in years past, and they're
Yep.
putting a lot of pressure on their joints and stuff. So, yeah, regardless of what the injury is, it just feels like if you get one of these guys who's constantly getting a little bit nicked up here, tweaking stuff, it's probably just a symptom of what they're doing to themselves each and every time they're playing. So, yeah, it's tough to see, honestly, because Gibson has actually had a pretty good season. But yeah, obviously, if he's out, Dashal going to be the guy to go there. Nico Heischer is day to day. Jack Hughes is dealing with a finger injury, but still quote unquote healthy at the moment. Bigger news that we got out of Columbus, Sean Monahan. Sounds like there's a setback with the wrist, and now it's an additional 6 to 8 weeks. So Fantilli season continues, Blake. I was looking at Fantilli earlier today, and the underlying metrics have not been like out of this world. He's kind of been just doing it on efficiency, but I mean, Columbus has just kind of been doing it on efficiency this year to
Yep.
some extent too. So I think for myself, at least, Fantilli remains like he's going to be rosterable as long as he's getting this deployment. Almost 26 minutes in the last game. Like, I don't know if you got any thoughts there, if you think he can keep up this pace, but at the very least, I think he's going to be rosterable.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about him a little bit on Friday's show, but yeah, I'm just excited about the deployment, the line. Like, I love it when a line comes together and you know that it would be an absolute mistake for them to separate that line. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I think that really applies to Marchenko and Voronkov, right? But Fantilli has seamlessly, like, bumped up to that line and got the biz, right? So I think the metrics will probably come, and like his confidence when the coach is putting you out there for that amount of time, your confidence is going to be sky high.
Yeah. Totally agreed there. Moving over to Pittsburgh, Evgeny Malkin out with a lower body injury, listed as day to day. We should look for some updates here on Monday and see where things go from there. Kiefer Sherwood not traveling with the Canucks, could return Wednesday to supply a hot beef injection. You know, Blake wrote the show notes when the phrase hot beef
No,
injection
I didn't write the show.
is
What are you
in
talking
there.
about, Nate? I mean, just you got to fly here on your own, Nate. That's fine. That's very funny stuff that you added there.
In Ottawa, Linus Ullmark getting closer to being ready as per Travis Green. I think, yeah, you got to be ready on the activate button, be following every time there's an Ottawa game day because it could be any day now. And good news, especially if you're Blake Creamer, Boone Jenner joining practice for the Columbus Blue Jackets. I think this is just kind of on track for him to return after the Four Nations break that's upcoming here. But yeah, Blake, tell me on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you about Boone Jenner being back in the NHL?
I'm stoked, man. I just love this player for fantasy. He's insane. He's always under rostered. I mean, like being realistic with Boone Jenner, he's a guy. He's like a 20-20 guy, basically. You know what I mean? That's kind of where he lives. But it's the periffs, it's the shots, the
Yeah.
periffs, the crazy jawline this man has, unbelievable. And you know what's really neat about Boone Jenner is the team he left. Like, I don't think he expected to come back into a team that's battling for a wild card spot in the playoffs
Mm-hmm.
and is probably playing some of the most exciting hockey in the NHL currently. So it's great, and I think it's gonna be a net positive for the Blue Jackets. This is their captain, right? And he's a beauty at that. So yeah, I think it's overall probably for Boone Jenner, like I said, 2020 maybe, but the Blue Jackets I think are going to benefit from his return, no question.
Absolutely. And lastly, here, Alex Pietrangelo has bowed out of the Four Nations, was selected to Team Canada, but won't be playing. Sounds like he's dealing with an underlying injury and believes he needs that time to get himself right and prepare for the rest of the season going into the playoffs for Vegas. Yeah, Blake, what's your thought here? Should we worry if you're rostering Petrangelo? Does that give you more worry about him moving forward, hanging on to him? I mean, probably now that the news is fully out there, you're not trading him anymore. So, is there any takeaway here with Petrangelo?
I mean, it doesn't feel good, right? If you're
Yeah,
rostering him, you're like, oh, he's got something that he actually needs to like take care of, right? So right off the bat, you're like, well, he's not 100%. What percentage is he? Is
yeah,
he good enough to keep playing up until the Four Nations? Like, maybe. So the good thing is with Pietrangelo, it's like he's not really doing that much for your teams. Like, he's serviceable, right? He's definitely a rosterable player, should be on a roster, but I mean, losing Pietrangelo is not going to tank your season by any means. But yeah, I would start looking at some backup plans.
yeah. Have to agree with that. It's a spot right where he's never in line, like he's never even the next guy in line for power play time. So he's had, 4 assists, 1 assist per game for 4 straight games. Then still in progress here tonight, but 0 points in the last two. Previous to that 4 assist stretch, he had 6 games without a point. Like he's been solidly up and down throughout the season. So he's not been somebody who's really changing your fantasy season at all. All right. Let's get into the main portion of the episode here. Let's talk about some hot shots right off the top. We got to give kudos to this man, David Pastrnak, absolutely lighting the world on fire. And I know because I was against him in
Yeah.
Fantasy Puck this week, and he kept doing it to me over and over. It didn't feel too good. 4 goals, 7 assists, 11 points in his last 5 games here. 20 and a half minutes average time on ice. 7th shots per 60. 79th individual scoring chances, 4 per 60. 66th Corsi, 4 per 60. 83rd scoring chances, 4 per 60. On pace now for 39 goals, 95 points. That's not that far off where we thought Pasternak would be at the beginning of the season. Now that he's got this hot stretch, what's your take on Pasternak at the moment? Do you think that are you rewriting? Like, I think everybody kind of, with how bad Boston looked early on, everyone was kind of just knocking Pasternak down and knocking him down and knocking him down. And he's just kind of reminding us of the elite talent that he is. What's your takeaway now? What would you put the goal and point pace at rest of the season?
That's a good question. First off, I'm just really happy that he's getting to biz now because it does stink. You pick a guy 5th or 6th or 7th overall, and he just came out the gates real cold. And Boston didn't look good, and they still don't look amazing, right? But 17 points in his last 7 games, Pasternak has. This guy's flying right now, so it's really nice to see his point pace is back up to where it should be, which is 95 points. Like, this is a guy that got 110 last year, so I think 95 points sounds good to me, like a 90 to 95 point pace moving forward. I think he's found some chemistry with Poindexter, Morgan Geekie. So we'll see if that lasts. He's playing Mazaka and Morgan Geekie there. And yeah, it's obviously working, right? They've been able to get some stuff done here in the last few games, especially Pasta. So yeah, I'm just happy that, we weren't all wrong about Pasternak. He doesn't just forget how to play hockey, right? And this is a good cautionary tale too for drafting players and then kind of letting them like marinate so they can actually flourish into what they are, right? We're looking at an 82 game season. Another player I think of a lot is Jason Robertson, right? Like,
Yep.
just guys that were not really doing anything to start the year, and everybody's panicking. And I remember when I first started playing fantasy hockey, I would panic big time on players like, oh God, no, I spent such a high draft pick. And now I'm just like, let's see what happens. You know what I mean? We can make up a lot of that missed production with streaming, in my opinion, and we do, right? And then all of a sudden, now Pasta's cooking for 17 in 7 games. So I'm obviously a big fan of the player, and I think he has a little bit of headroom to go. I mean, at least on the season, he's shooting 11.4%, which is pretty low for him, lowest in 5 years, or yeah. So I think he can probably shoot a little bit better there, especially if that line stays together and they continue to cook.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I don't have any faith in the guys around him. Like
Yeah.
Geeky, 5 goals in his last 5 games. That's gonna go away. It's a nice stretch. He did a similar thing at one point last year and then faded into obscurity again. I don't really think that Geeky is suddenly gonna turn into somebody at this stage in his career. But yeah, like, could he score 20 to 25 goals on a Pasternak line? Yeah, I think a lot of people could, to be honest with you. So yeah, Pasternak himself. I think Pasternak has got a lower shooting percentage this year. I think he deserves better on the shooting. So I think he can creep back up towards the 45 to 50 goal pace rest of season for sure. But in terms of the point pace, it is kind of tough to see. The IPP is sky high for him right now, almost 90%, which he's always rocked like close to around an 80% IPP. He's always been that guy, but 90 is another level. So I do think he probably loses something there. The on ice shooting percentage is a lot lower than years past, but that is also a little bit a function of just how hard
Line
it's
mates. Yeah.
been for this Bruins team to score goals. So I don't know how much better the on ice shooting percentage is really going to get. I don't think the end of season point pace is really going to vary that much from the 95 that he's on right now. Like 95 to 100, I feel like is probably where Pasternak lives rest of season. But it is nice to get these stretches and, have your first round pick actually win you some weeks, hopefully. So kudos to Pasternak for that. Another guy who's relatively high pick, but should shout him out as well for the crazy stretch he's having. 4 goals, 6 assists, 10 points in the last 5 games for Clayton Keller. Doing this on just over 17 and a half minutes average time on ice. 128 shots per 60, 315th in individual scoring chances, 4 per 60. In the 200s in the on ice numbers. Honestly, not the best stretch underline metrics wise for Keller, but the points are happening. The goals are going in. 31 goal, 92 point pace for Keller on this season. What's your takeaway here with Keller, and do you think that he can sustain 90 point production?
90 points seems a bit high to me, especially on this team. Like it's still a bunch of young guys that are trying to figure it out, and with Genther injured as well, I think that is going to just trim the ceiling a little bit on Keller, right? Because with Genther out, they've kind of other teams can focus on that one line, right? Whereas
Mhm.
Genther was a really good threat and a very dangerous one on the second line. So yeah, all that to say, like 92 points, no, that doesn't make any sense to me. Like good shooting percentage, kind of in line with what he's done before. Ice time is reasonable, but I don't know. I'm kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop here. Like if you
Mhm.
look at what he's done in the last 5 games, like 10 points, that's insane. But shooting percentage 36%, on ice shooting percentage 23, like you said, like damn, that's going to come down, folks. So it's not to this level, but you got to love it if you're rostering this guy. And this is a very dynamic player, a guy that drives his own offense, right? Drives the offense for the line that he's on, and he's got a really good facilitator in Nick Schmaltz with him as well. So
Yep.
I like the sustainability for like point per game. That's kind of what I like Keller for here. But 92, damn, that would be such a win if he can pull that off.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there is a chance for him to do better than we thought for sure. But yeah, I tend to agree. Point per game feels a little bit more accurate to what we should expect. He's just like a little bit hot in terms of all the luck metrics, right? 81% IPP, 15% shooting percentage, 13.4% on ice shooting percentage. Just feels a little bit hot. And
Yep.
yeah, I do agree. Gunther missing off that power play. It hasn't affected Killer obviously in this last 5 game stretch, but over the course of time, you expect that's a net negative for anybody associated with that power play. So, yeah, overall, I tend to agree. Not too much to add there. Let's go to Keller's teammate and previously his line mate, Barrett Hayton, showing up here 4 goals, 6 points in his last 5, over 15 minutes a night, playing on a new look line. But 81st shots per 60, 96 individual scoring chances 4 per 60, 181 Corsi 4 per 60, 257 on ice scoring chances 4 per 60. He's on a 20 goal, 43 point pace on the season. And obviously he's bounced around this lineup, but there have been stretches where Barrett Hayton does kind of show out. Like even on the season, it's 57th in the league in individual scoring chances 4 per
Mm-hmm.
60 for Barrett Hayton. Do you think that there's a player here? Do you think he can provide enough from like line two, power play two for us to view him as anything more than a streamer moving forward?
I'm not sure about that. To me, he's definitely a streamer with benefits. Like you hold him when he's going like this. This is excellent, but I mean, line two, power play two is never a good spot to start out with, right? And then when you dig in a little further, obviously it's massive efficiency. The same way Clayton Keller is, like Barrett Hayton is doing the same thing. He's shooting like 36%, 100% IPP. No, okay, that's not realistic. But what I do like, I mean, shout out to Mark Barber. He does stream sheets. He has his own Patreon, so 18 skaters, Mark Barber, check him out. But yeah, like one thing that his model shows is that dangerous shot attempts for Clayton Keller, or sorry, Barrett Hayton, are off the charts in the last 2 weeks. Like he's 17th overall in the league in Mark's model. So
Mm-hmm.
when he's out there, the shots that he's getting are high danger shots, right? But I mean, that also says to me, like, he's probably in really close to the net. Like, he's not a great skater, Barrett Hayton. So he's
Mm-hmm.
in and around the net, getting chances in that regard, right? And that's probably why his shooting percentage is so high. He's also playing with a really good facilitator, Matthias Michelli. So there's some chemistry there, but yeah, I wouldn't expect it to go much further. And we could very well be talking about dropping him next week. So that's my take there on Hayton.
Yeah, hard to disagree there. Just a streamer until further notice for me as well. Moving over to San Jose, Mikhail Granlund popping up again. 2 goals, 4 assists, 6 points in his last 5, over 19 minutes a night. Underlying metrics look pretty terrible, as they usually do, with the sole exception of the on ice scoring chances 4 per 60 at 50th. Not too bad there. It's a 23 goal, 71 point pace for Granlund on the season. What do we think about Granlund? I've been pretty vocal on this podcast saying like I'm trying to move Granlund for, like a bag of pucks basically, like a good streamer for next week because I'm really worried that he's going to get traded at the deadline. Contract is up as I understand after this year, so he makes a lot of sense as like a piece to dangle in a trade and get whatever you can for him for the Sharks. And so for fantasy, it kind of means the same thing because I don't think he's necessarily guaranteed anything going somewhere else where there's a contender. Probably not going on a top power play, probably not going on a top line wherever he goes. So that's my take on Granlund. I've been standing by it for a long time, especially in puzzling players. But thought I'd get your take here, Blake, with this latest hot stretch from him. What should we do with Mikhail Granlund?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you said there. I'd be looking to get off. Like, not that he's a sell high and he's not able to keep this 71 point pace. Like he did that last year with San Jose. This maybe is the player he is on San Jose, right? But like you said, if he goes to any other team at the trade deadline, yeah, we're looking at a middle six forward with power play 2 most likely, right? And all that offense, that sweet offense goes away. So, I would be looking to, I wouldn't mind taking a little hit if you can get someone with a good playoff schedule, right? In your
Yeah.
playoffs, and you can get off Granlund for like a 60-point player or something like that. That's going to, supplement your playoffs, or like a defenseman. I would absolutely do that. But, if he stays on San Jose, I think that this point pace is probably pretty reasonable. And I think he's obviously landed in a great spot for production here. But I also like the current line that he's on, and I like he's playing with I think Will Smith and Fabian Zetterlund. I think is what he did today or the other day. Yeah, Will Smith and Zetterlund. And I read just a quick interview with Granlund. He was talking about Will Smith and how smart of a player he is and how much he enjoys playing with him. So if he stays in San Jose, this guy's loving life, right? He's having a good time, and he really likes playing with Will Smith, and Fabian Zetterlund's got some upside as well, and it's a good spot to be. San Jose's a fun team, but yeah, I am absolutely concerned that he gets moved at the deadline.
Yep. Let's move along then. And let's talk about Jonathan Drouin. Let's call this the Martin Nietzsche's corollary here. 1 goal, 5 assists, 6 points in the last 5 for Drouin, 21 minutes a night, 290th in shots per 60, 282nd in individual scoring chances 4 per 60, and then get this, third in Corsi 4 per 60, and eighth in on ice scoring chances 4 per 60. Yeah, I don't know if I've ever seen that big of a disparity in those metrics, but that's pretty much been the story with Drouin on the season. Like, that is pretty much the difference. He is on an 18 goal, 77 point pace in the 18 games he's played so far for Colorado. Um, Honestly, I don't think that it's too crazy. It really does seem like he's solidified his spot alongside McKinnon. No matter what else happens, he's the left winger that McKinnon wants at even strength on the power play. And I don't really have a good reason to say why that's going to change anytime soon. Nichushkin setback. You're not getting that pressure of, if he goes cold for a while and somebody else is performing down the lineup, would they bring somebody else up? I'm feeling more and more confident with Jonathan Drouin in my lineup day by day. How about you, Blake?
Yeah, I think that's a really good take. I'm not super excited about his fantasy production, but I have absolute faith that his role is secure, at least for now, right? And strictly because of what you said, Nathan McKinnon wants to play with this guy. Like, he's the straw that stirs the drink there, and I think he's kind of made it clear that Jonathan Drouin's his guy, and they want to play together. And now that they have this line with Martin H, like I said, I watched the last 2 games, and it's interesting to me. Like, I'm not sure if it's a benefit to Drouin in particular to have Natchez there, because Natchez is an excellent passer in his own right, and he's much more
Right.
dynamic than Drouin, and that's what Drouin's bringing to the table. He's bringing facilitating, getting the puck to McKinnon in good spots, kind of one touching it to McKinnon. One thing that I don't like about Drouin at all, and it was really apparent these last 2 games, is like he passes, he does not shoot. He will not shoot no matter what. It's crazy. So, I mean, the metrics make absolute sense, but he's got some amazing playmakers in Martin Necas and Nathan McKinnon on his line. So if Drouin would shoot a little bit more, I'd be more excited about his outlook. But for now, he's kind of like a better version of Casey Middlestat, on the wing, like just
Mm-hmm.
facilitating to Nathan McKinnon and Necas, and that's that, right? But that said, this line looks really good, and I think they're going to give them some run. And yeah, Drouin's 77-point pace. My God, I don't see how that happens. Like, he only has 18 games, so that's a small sample size. I see Drouin as kind of still like a 60-point player, even with this kind of production, but he does have a ceiling for a little bit more just with his access to McKinnon and that power play.
Sounds about right. Let's talk about Vegas. Currently playing a game. Shea Theodore, prior to this game, 8 points in his last 5, including a couple of goals, almost 24 minutes a night. That's over the 22 minutes average time on ice on the season for Shea Theodore. He's on pace for 75 points. I
Love
don't
that.
know that a lot of people were expecting that kind of season out of Shea Theodore this year. But what's the status with Shea Theodore in your mind here now, Blake? What do you think we should expect from him moving forward at this point? Do you think that, is 75 actually what we should expect from Theodore? Even 65, I feel like a lot of fantasy managers would be pretty happy with rest of season. What do you think Theodore can do for us moving forward?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. Shea Theodore is like found money. Like if you drafted him, it's like, we thought Hannafin was going to be the guy. No, it's Theodore. He's running the power play as he should, and this guy's popping the hell off. He already has 18 power play points. That's a career high. He has it in 49 games. Dang. So I'm definitely into Shea Theodore. I think he was massively undervalued, rightfully so, because of the reports we heard. But he's obviously a great puck moving, puck facilitating defenseman. He's got great offensive instincts, and he's really popping off on the power play. And Jack Eichel is playing out of his head this year, and I think the whole team is kind of getting the benefit from that, and a healthy Mark Stone. So 74 points seems a bit high to me. What did you project Theodore for? Do you remember?
Yeah, I had him for 59 points at the start of the season. That was with some split power play time, 21 minutes, 15 seconds total. So
Okay.
that was where I was at.
Yeah, I got it for 61, which, didn't feel awesome at the time, but I think that's pretty much a lock at this point. Like you said, if Shea Theodore gets 60 points this year, that's an absolute steal, because you were probably drafting this guy just before, like in the 90s or just after 100. Like this is an excellent defenseman that's really crushing for fantasy this year. So yeah, I don't see any reason why this would go away, right? 74, no, but 60 to 65, yes.
Yeah, hard to disagree with that. I think Theodore has always been one of these guys that we should really expect to have pretty huge numbers at 585. It was really just, is he ever going to get that chance to truly pop off on a power play in any given season? And now he's been given that chance, and the Vegas power play has finally come to play. Dorofiev has been a huge addition on that power play when he's been there.
Yep.
It's just kind of all coming together, it feels like. But yeah, Theodore is really just one of these guys who always rocks a huge IPP. Like I had him for a 54% even strength IPP. That might be higher than anybody else, including like Makar and Hughes and these guys. So just one of these guys who absolutely drives play 5v5 from the back end. And Vegas has been a little better than expected offensively, as you mentioned, and Theodore's gone to work. And yeah, you look at the numbers, like it's a 60% IPP, 12.4% on ice shooting percentage. I don't know like how far off I would really be. I had him for a 58% IPP when I did all the
Yep.
calculation. So yeah, it's like 2% there, maybe a little bit less on the on ice shooting percentage, I would have thought, but he could still be a 70-point defenseman and be right in line with my projections with the extra power play work here. So I'm really loving what I'm getting out of Shea Theodore this year. Last one on the list here, we got to give some shout outs to Vancouver Canucks whenever we can. Make Blake feel a
Thank
little
you.
bit better about the season they're having
Thank
over
you.
there. 5 goals, 7 points in the last 5 games for Quinn Hughes. 26 and a half minutes he's playing every night while banged up. Talk to me about your captain, Blake.
How does he keep getting better? That's the thing. Like last year, 92 points. Okay, we're like, well, he's not going to do that again. Well, now he's pacing for 101. I mean, damn, I guess that's what happens when you play like 30 minutes a night and you have the puck on your stick the entire time. But what can you say? There's not enough superlatives to sort of describe this man. He's the engine of the team, and he doesn't have a lot of help. That's really the unfortunate part here in Vancouver. And something that he's done recently that he's sort of admitted to, and Talkett's talked about this as well, is he tries to do too much, right? Like he's not sort of facilitating the way that maybe he even himself would want to. He just feels like he has to put the team on his back, and they've had lots of conversations about that. But it doesn't matter. Like this guy, he's upped his shots. So first off, at 5-on-5, his IPP is 54%. Like, yeah, he's putting up Shea Theodore numbers. Dang. So that's lovely. So, and he's also playing the most even or 5-on-5 time on ice that he ever has by a minute and a half almost. He's shooting more, he's converting more, he's getting more scoring chances, right? it's insane. And his on ice shooting percentage went down. So maybe like if his team was actually doing something, maybe there's even a little bit more there. But we got the Miller-Pettersson saga here, and that hopefully gets wrapped up soon. But 101 points, it wouldn't surprise me. Right? It just wouldn't surprise me. But like you said, too, I think he's banged up as well. You have to be. Like, this guy's tired. He's missing practices here and there, I think, just out of exhaustion. Like they're rolling him out there and he's doing everything. So that's not really sustainable. I worry a little bit about, if the Canucks do make the playoffs, like this guy's going to be dead. Like he's doing everything, but I don't know. I love the player. He's one of my favorites out there. Like probably my favorite player to watch. And I get to watch him all the time. So shout out to you, Quinn Hughes. I named my daughter after Quinn Hughes. All right. I wish I could say that. No, my daughter's name is Quinn, but it wasn't after Quinn Hughes, but it's a nice tribute. I'm changing it now.
Changing the reasoning retroactively.
Yeah, that's right.
I
yeah,
like
that's
it.
right.
Yeah, for myself, my big tie to Quinn Hughes this year has been on my kick-couple team. I got him for steal in that auction draft. It felt like I kind of slipped him through, honestly.
Giggity.
And that felt pretty good. Has felt really good the last little bit here. And
Double
big reason why I'm on pace for a W in that league this week. So I'm happy about Quinn Hughes. I do think that he's probably, the extra minutes are one reason, extra shots are another reason. Those are probably going to fall off a little bit at some point, you have to imagine. Already being banged up the way he is, the 64% IPP is pretty sky high, even for a guy like this. And maybe he maintains the IPP, but the on-ice shooting percentage suffers a little bit. I don't know. It's just been a wildly efficient, wildly productive season for Quinn Hughes so far. It's like just to the extent where you're like, I don't think he can keep doing this, right? But he keeps doing it to this point. So, got nothing but love for Quinn Hughes, and I expect him to be able to, maybe it's not 101 points, but 90 points feels like a foregone conclusion at this point. All right. Before we get to the have-nots, gotta run through the Apples and Geos Patreon. In case you're wondering, $2 a month gets you access to patron-only live shows. We'll be doing another one of those coming up in February. So if you want to get access to that and be a part of that live show, you can also get it after the fact, an audio recording and the visual aid that I produce along with that. But if you want to be there for the live show, ask your questions live and kind of get some coaching that way, $2 a month gets you in the door there. $8 a month, Apple's tier gets you access to those patron-only live shows, gets you access to patron-only Discord channels as well, gets you access to these show notes that we use for the flagship show, for the waiver wire show, the waiver wire rankings, the players that we want to hold for the rest of the year. Shout out Troy Terry. And also gets you access to the Apples and Genos player evaluation tool, which is what Blake and I are using to look at these players, their metrics over the last little bit and on the season, and kind of make our prognostications about what they might do moving forward. If you are a true degenerate when it comes to fantasy hockey, the Genos tier exists exclusively for you. $15 a month gets you all the previous perks mentioned, plus every single question guaranteed to be answered by yours truly. Blake, are you ready for the have-nots?
I love it, buddy. You always forget this part. You add a little bit of extra money on top of there, and Nate will come over and help you shave your armpits. Oh, yeah. It's a great service that he provides. He's very gentle. Anyways, carry on, Nate. What do you got to say there?
All right. I forgot what segue I had planned, but it definitely wasn't as good as that one. So let's dive in with Dylan Strome. This has been an interesting development for Dylan Strome rosters. Going from like a guy who's just absolutely on fire to start the season. I had like 100-point pace at one point. Then Ovechkin gets hurt. Ovechkin comes back, and still Strome can't get it going. Don't know what that is, but it's a 20-goal, 77-point pace for Strome now. He's down to just over 17 and a quarter minutes on ice the last 5 games. No points. 159th in shots per 60, 260th individual scoring chances, 4 per 60, 190 in on-ice Corsi, 4 per 60, and 206 in on-ice scoring chances, 4 per 60. What is going on with Dylan Strome, Blake, and can he turn this ship around?
Yeah, I think he can, actually. This team is so good, and it's kind of it's just one of those things. Like obviously the Strome line and the Ovechkin line was going early, and then the PLD line has been going late, right? So or lately. So I think they're kind of kind of just swapping back and forth here, but I do have faith in Dylan Strome. Obviously, the metrics are never going to be great with this player, and so these kind of things happen, right? It's a player that he doesn't generate shots or chances individually, right? He's really good at setting up shots and chances for Ovi, right? Obviously, I remember one time it was like a breakaway. Dylan Strome's on a breakaway, and he literally turned his head around and passed it to Ovechkin. You know, it's like he does that. So he's kind of that kind of player. But I think we've seen enough with Dylan Strome to be like, yeah, this is a cold spell. He's going to bounce back. Honestly, he's had 0 points in his last 6 games. He's still on a 77-point pace. We're 49 games into the season. So I'm not too concerned with Dylan Strome currently, but yeah, like he's not going to get 77 points. I think we're probably closer to 65, 70 points, which Dylan Strome has done before, right? He got 67 points last year, and I think he probably ends up in that range again. But this is a really good facilitator here. And as this goal scoring thing keeps going on, like as Ovechkin gets closer and closer, Strome is going to be passing more and more and more. So his actual statistics, they're probably a little bit skewed because the team is so hell bent on getting Ovechkin this record, right? So I'm taking this with a little bit of a grain of salt here because, you know, Ovechkin is not really he's not really lighting the world on fire lately anyway, right? He got an empty net goal the other night, which is nice. But yeah, I think Strome will be fine. Long story short.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think that, yeah, I had him for 66-point pace at the beginning of the year. I think 77 feels not too bad overall. It could be a little less. The most concerning thing to me here is that the ice time's a little bit down.
Mm.
Still on power play one, still on what you would expect to be line one with Ovechkin. But yeah, on the season, averaging just over 17 and a half minutes. That's not exactly what you want from a guy who's supposed to be scoring a bunch of points for you. I had him projected for 18 minutes, 15 seconds. He's been more efficient than that this year, and that's kind of how he's gotten to this point total. But yeah, I do think that the Capitals are just better than we thought, so I'm not like dinging him too much for that. So yeah, 70-point pace rest of season for Dylan Strome. I still feel halfway decent about, but I do think he probably needs a bit more minutes at even strength to really kind of solidify that in my mind. So that's the one thing that's holding me back from, signing off completely there. Let's head over to Tampa, talk about Anthony Cirelli, one of the big breakout players of this year, it's felt like, but just 1 assist now in his last 5 games, still skating 20 and a half minutes a night, 192nd in shots per 60, 63rd individual scoring chances for per 60, and 35th in on ice scoring chances for per 60. On the season, 31 goals, 66-point pace for Cirelli. What's your take on Cirelli? Should we expect more regression here, or do you think that this is a player who has actually broken through and we should expect him to be scoring 30 plus goal pace, 65 plus point pace?
No, no, I don't expect Anthony Cirelli to get a 66-point pace moving forward. This always was not real, in my opinion. I do believe that Cirelli has taken a step this year, but I think it's more due to the fact that he's playing with Brandon Hagel, who has taken a legitimate step this year, and as a guy that I was definitely interested in going into the season. Like Hagel has really elevated his game, and he's dragging Anthony Cirelli along with him. And the points that Cirelli has right now is based off of efficiency, right? Big ice time, big efficiency. He's currently shooting 18%, which is the second highest of his career, behind the 18-game season he played in his rookie year. So I expect the shooting percentage to go down. He's not on the power play, or he's on power play 2 sometimes. So that's fine. But yeah, we're relying on even strength here for Cirelli, and even just digging in on Tampa Bay as a team. They're number 1 in the league in finishing, right? In conversion. They're doing that. They're an extremely efficient team, and there's only one place to go down when there's only one place to go when you're number 1, and it's down. I ruined the analogy, but yeah, I think you get what I'm saying. I think he has taken a step, but not a 66-point pace step, maybe closer to like 50 to 55 points, maybe 60. 60 would be maybe what he does this year because he has overachieved, in my opinion. But Cirelli's not a guy they expect this offense from. This is all icing on the cake. To me, this is a great defensive player and is helping facilitate offense for guys like Brandon Hagel.
Yeah. Tend to agree with pretty much everything there. Yeah, the 17.8% shooting percentage for Sorelli feels pretty high. Even 59% IPP for Sorelli, that would be the highest of his career going back to 2019-20. So yeah, he's never been a guy who factors in on a huge amount of the offense. So even if that holds at 59%, that would be like kind of a high watermark for him in his career. And then 14.3% on ice shooting percentage. Everybody in Tampa has a ridiculous on ice shooting percentage right now. And it feels like some of that, at least, maybe it doesn't come down to where we expect it to, but there's going to be at least some regression coming for him there. So, yeah, overall, I do think that he's doing some things better than he has in the past, but, like, he has produced the individual numbers at least at this level or better before. So that part is kind of just the same as it's always been. The on ice numbers are a little bit higher in what I'm looking at here. And yeah, you can probably attribute some of that to Hagel having the year he's having. But the efficiency is what's really getting him to this level. And the efficiency still seems pretty likely to fall off a bit. So yeah, I tend to agree 55-point pace is probably where I'd put him rest of season. In Detroit, Alex DeBrincat just one goal in his last five. 17 plus minutes a night, 22nd in shots per 60, 51st individual scoring chances 4 per 60, 40th in on ice scoring chances 4 per 60, 33 goals, 64-point pace for DeBrincat on the season. What do you think about DeBrincat here? Obviously, Detroit has been doing pretty well since the firing of Derek Lalonde. Who could have seen this coming? But what do we think about DeBrincat specifically? Because he seems like the last guy to get the Dylan Larker treatment at 5v5 when all is said and done. So do you think that DeBrincat is just this guy? Do you think there's upside for more? What's your take on the cat?
I think he's kind of right where he needs to be in terms of his point pace, like which is 64. But I also think he's really missing Patrick Kane these last couple games here, because yeah, if he's not getting Dylan Larkin, which I thought was a good sort of connection early on in the year, even under Derek Lalonde, they were putting up a lot of chances and shots together, with Larkin being the guy at the end of the passes, right? But yeah, I think that once Patrick Kane gets back in the lineup, we'll probably see a little boost to DeBrincat here. But I mean, it's like, where was he drafted? I'm trying to think where DeBrincat was drafted. Even like it's probably around 100 or maybe 80 to 100 range there. Like I don't know, 64-point pace, 80 to 100 range. That seems fine to me. One thing that is interesting with DeBrincat, he's not hitting this year. This is
Mm-hmm.
a guy, he's a beefer, right? He's had over 100 hits in a couple seasons and he only has 17 and 49 games. So I don't like that. So that peripheral floor is kind of gone with him. But overall, I think that he's a better player than he's showing here. Like 1 point in the last five, no. I think that'll kind of normalize a little bit here. But yeah, it's concerning to say the least. I want to see what happens when Patrick Kane gets back in the lineup.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I think a lot of this you can attribute to Patrick Kane being out for the last little bit here, but it is nice to see the shots are still there for the
Yeah.
Brinkett. I think that yeah, the net effect of Todd McClellan on just about everybody in Detroit is positive, so I'm loving that for pretty much everybody there. Top power play seems a little bit more locked in for DeBrincat under McClellan than it was under Lalonde as well, so
Yeah.
I like that too. But yeah, where does that leave him at the end of it all? Probably, yeah, somewhere around where he's at after all this, after the dust is settled. I had him at the beginning of the season for 31 goals, 68 points, and he's right around that. I don't have a huge reason to say that something is going to change drastically in that moving forward. So I think that DeBrincat kind of is this guy 30 ish goals, 60, 65 ish points. That's what you should expect from DeBrincat moving forward. If there was ever, a new scenario in which he was skating 20 minutes a night with Larkin on the top line, yeah, that would be a new ceiling for DeBrincat. It just feels really, really unlikely at this point that we ever see that version of DeBrincat, and I don't think you can bank on it at any level moving forward. Heading over to Dallas, Jamie Benn was super hot for a while there. Now just one goal in his last five, just under 17 minutes a night, 197 shots per 60, 220th individual scoring chances, 4 per 60, 61st in on ice scoring chances, 4 per 60 is the best metric there. On the season, 22 goal, 52-point pace in 16 minutes of work a night. What do you think about Jamie Benn? Was he running too hot and this is just some regression coming back? And, is the point pace on the season indicative of the player? What do you think we should expect from Jamie Benn moving forward?
I think this is a guy that is finally coming down off of this crazy high that he's had the last few years. You know, he's found himself in some really good positions, obviously on the top power play in Dallas. And he's had a bit of a renaissance, right? Or a benaissance. All right. Shout out to
Yeah.
John Binkel. Okay. He coined that phrase, the benaissance. That's confirmed. Anyways, it's just he can't skate. He's slow. Like he's not bringing much to the table. This is a guy that is almost absolutely reliant on the players around him to get offense, right? And his big claim to fame over the last few years, power play one. Well, Dallas's power play stinks. It's 22nd in the league, and they've made changes again, and it's been a little bit better lately. But the second power play, again, is getting a bunch of run. They put Rupe Hintz down on the second power play now, and they've had goals in consecutive games. So it's just that kind of exciting piece about rostering Jamie Benn isn't as exciting anymore to me. So I think a 52-point pace, honestly, I'd be surprised if he hits 52 by the end of the year. I just think they have a lot of players on Dallas that can do something similar to what Jamie Benn does. And he's kind of a one-trick pony at this point. He's like a net front guy on the power play, and he only has one power play goal. What the hell? So I don't know. I'm talking Yang on Jamie Benn. Maybe it's because he talked some Yang on the Sedins back in the day. I don't know. And he's still rocking a goatee too, buddy. I don't know. All right. Grow your cheek hair. Like what's going on? He actually has to take a razor and shape the sideburns into the beard. I don't know what's going on, but yeah, I'm not a fan of Jamie Benn. I don't think that this guy's a streamer to me.
First off, like, what do you have against goatees? Like, some of us, like, don't have are a little bit follically impaired on our cheek regions specifically, and
See,
it's
that's
not as
fine.
easy for some of us. Like, I feel a little bit targeted here. I feel like I should throw the flag on this one.
You know what? And I appreciate that, but buddy, what I'm looking at right now is pure machismo. Okay, I don't lump you into that. All right, you've got a Nate T. All right, it's not a goatee, it's a Nate T, or it's like the goatee. That's kind of what you have. There's a couple options there. We'll workshop that later, but I mean, you're fine, buddy. Jamie Benn, no, he's also got the slick back hair. Big rosy cheeks like a cherub. Ah, buddy, get the hell out of my sight. No, I mean, shout us out in the comments, folks. Who is more attractive, Jamie Benn or Nate Grudniblik? And there's only one answer.
Okay,
Come on, let's go.
okay. Let's continue on before we derail too much further. But yeah, Jamie Benn, I had him projected for about 60 points, but I was never really interested in him. I picked him up in one spot in the Patron League
Yep.
when he got dropped earlier in the season when he was going a bit cold. And I've held him since then, but yeah, he's gone cold again, and now I'm thinking about dropping him again. So like, it's one of those
Yeah.
things. I just don't think he can trust it. It is Dallas. He's playing on one of the three lines that is leaned on to score sometimes. And yeah, he's not doing the thing on the power play anymore, which is kind of the point of Jamie Benn, it feels like a lot of the time. So yeah, not excited about Jamie Benn. 55-ish point pace rest of season feels about accurate for me. Eric Carlson, John Carlson, Mike Matheson, all defensemen with Sun at the end of their name are
Weird.
doing terribly currently. Eric Carlson, let's start there. 0 points in his last five. 22 and a half minutes average time on ice, 39 shots per 60, 63rd individual scoring chances, 4 per 60. And it feels like a lot of this has to be due to the fact that, Matt Grzelcyk became a thing for a hot minute. In this last game, they decided to go with Carlson and Letang back on the top power play with Crosby, Raquel, Bunting. I guess with Rustin and Malkin out, they're like, okay, we got to just we have a clear five best guys here. Let's just do
Yep.
it. So I don't know what's next in the saga that is the Pittsburgh Penguins at this point, but yeah, I don't know what you can realistically trust Eric Carlson to do for your fantasy squad at this point. If you look at the season-long metrics, they're pretty good, and it's really just been bad efficiency for him, resulting in a 7-goal, 51-point pace. And this is not a guy who brings you peripherals, right? So, what do you think we can rely on Carlson for moving forward, and is it worthwhile?
I think it's worthwhile for sure, but it's going to be painful. It's not one of those like slam dunks. It's like he needs power play. He needs power play one consistently. When you're getting moved around on the power play the way he is, it's not a good sign. It means like something's not working. We need to move you off and get you doing something else, And I like to think that, maybe they wanted the second power play to, beef up a little bit. So maybe they put Erik Karlsson there, but that's probably not it. All right. They wanted a different look on power play 1. So I'm glad to see that he's back there, but him coming there was really interesting. Remember how bad Pittsburgh's power play was last year? Like
Yeah.
it was insanely bad. Now this year, it's actually 6th overall. Like,
Yeah.
what the hell? I mean, that's a bit of a surprise. I mean, we knew it was going to get better, but 6th overall, and Karlsson isn't even a part of it. So it's kind of a head scratcher to me, but I think we have to trust the talent of the player. We have to trust some of the underlying metrics here. Like you said, on the season, he's 7th overall in individual Corsi 4/60. He's chucking pucks, 17th overall in shots to goal per 60. Love that. 16th in scoring chances for. Like, he's doing it. He just needs. I think he needs the coach's confidence, and he might not get that this year, right? It's kind of he's a little bit in limbo, I think, in terms of his deployment, and I think that's really affecting his fantasy value.
Yeah, hard to disagree with anything there. It does feel like a player who should be doing more than he is, but at the same time, it is Pittsburgh. The injuries now with Russ and Malkin, like if they continue to deal with any kind of injuries in the top 6 there, like they just have nothing left behind
Yeah.
those guys. God forbid Crosby misses any time rest of the season, because that team would just die instantly without him in terms of generating any offense, it feels like. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a tough spot to produce offense in some regard, but I mean, it's Erik Karlsson. Like, he should be able to
Yeah.
figure it out.
He's not that
He's,
old.
yeah, he's not that old, and 2 seasons removed from a 100-point season. Like, where did that Erik Karlsson go? There's a lot of factors there, but it does feel like there's something just that is not working whatsoever. 43% IPP. This should be a guy who has the puck on his stick a lot and
Yeah.
is on at least half of the goals being scored when he's on the ice. But yeah, I have no confidence in Erik Karlsson to do more than what he's done so far. I think he should, like theoretically, if I'm just doing the math on it, I think he should do more than this. I think he should be closer to a 60-point pace. But I just have very little confidence based on how the season is going. The vibes out of Pittsburgh are just not good.
No.
Yeah, it's a rough spot for sure, and I'm just kind of personally glad that I don't have any shares of Erik Karlsson to have this problem. But if you do, yeah, I just wouldn't expect anything better. Basically, is where I'm at with him rest of season.
Godspeed, little doodle.
All right. Let's do another Carlson. John Carlson this time, 1 assist in his last 5, 22 and a half minutes there as well. 117 shots per 60, 64th individual scoring chances, 4 per 60. In the 100s in Corsi 4 per 60, and on ice scoring chances, 4 per 60. That's a pretty significant downgrade from where he's been over the course of the season, now on a 7-goal, 48-point pace. What do we say about John Carlson? Is this recent stretch indicative of him downturning in any way? Like on the season, his underlying numbers look a lot better, but they've kind of just been trending down over the last little while. And Jacob Chikrin is there, let's not forget, sharing time on the top power play right now. But what happens if Chikrin just finally eclipses John Carlson once and for all, and John Carlson doesn't have top power play? What does that look like? Yeah, there's just feels like there's a lot more worry around John Carlson from the fantasy community as a whole. I've been getting his name a lot in puzzling players. What do you think about Carlson at this point, Blake?
I'm not too concerned, to be honest. Like he's still getting reasonable ice time. Like it all depends on what your expectation was of John Carlson, right? Like if you expected him like 70-point John Carlson, then yeah, you're definitely disappointed. But he's on pace for 49 points and he's on a cold streak right now. I think that's probably like 55 points. Like he'll probably end up around there. And 55-point John Carlson is kind of what I expected. It's like, he was able to be drafted after 100 ADP. So it is what it is. I think, you and I have talked about this before, but the arrival of Jacob Chikrin, I thought Chikrin was the one whose value was going to go down and Carlson would maintain. But what actually happened is Chikrin is eating into John Carlson's touches, his minutes, right? And his goal scoring, right? John Carlson is a double-digit goal scorer from the back end. And I don't think he's going to get there this year. And I think that's because Chikrin is at the end of these passes, right? From below the goal line, it's going to Chikrin and he's blasting him, not John Carlson. So, and I mean, you just throw in some age-related decline, John Carlson, Ovi, right? I've talked a lot about Ovechkin and his decline. I still believe it. It's just, the team is trying to move hell and earth to get him these goals and get him the puck, and he can still rip it. That's something that's not gone away at all from Ovechkin. So yeah, I think that power play has changed a little bit from John Carlson and Ovi just passing it back and forth to now we've got some other options there, and they're getting the points. So yeah, I like John Carlson for 55, and I've got him in one spot, and I'm happy to have him there.
Yeah, I think that there is some concern for me. Like under the hood, it looks like he should be getting a little bit more. 37% IPP would be by far the lowest that we've seen out of John Carlson any length of time. But at the same time, yeah, there are the environmental factors, not least of which is Jacob Chikrin. So where does that leave us? I think it probably is somewhere in this range, 45 to 50 point John Carlson for me rest of season. Um, it's probably not that far off, all things considered, because I do think that we're seeing a little bit of a decline in his role. Um, 22 and a half minutes in the last little bit, whereas on the season, he's average is closer to 24. So he's just been taking a little bit of the edge off there, and probably smart from the Capitals to not, just run him into the earth at his age, heading towards, what
Yeah.
they're hoping is a long playoff run. So I think that might just mean a little bit down of a year for Carlson. Like I had him projected for 53 points at the start of the season, so it wasn't like I had a massive projection on him to start the year. But yeah, I think he might fall just a little bit short of that, kind of in line with what his metrics are right now. He might, get a little bit less ice time, but get a little bit more efficient, and it still comes out to somewhere in this range. So that's where I'm at on Carlson right now. Last one here, Mike Matheson, 0 points in his last five. 25 minutes a night still, 132nd shots per 60, 74th individual scoring chances 4 per 60, 89th in both Corsi 4 per 60 and on ice scoring chances 4 per 60. 5 goal, 38-point pace for Mike Matheson on this season. And what is the problem with Mike Matheson this year, Blake? And is there anything to be done with Mike Matheson? Should we just be kicking him to the curb at this point?
Do not kick Mike Matheson to the curb. All right, please don't do that. Okay. You know what Mike Matheson's problem is? He's too good of a teammate. Okay. The problem is they have an insanely dynamic offensive defenseman that is paired with Mike Matheson, and his name is Lane Hutson, and he's getting to biz this season. So that was Mike Matheson last year. I mean, this guy is an incredible skater. He's a great offensive defenseman, but I mean, of the two players, Lane Hutson and Mike Matheson, Matheson is much more well-rounded and can do he can perform in all three zones, right? And that's, I think, what they've asked him to do there in Montreal with Lane Hutson. Lane Hutson has the green light to go for offense, and Matheson is the kind of stay-at-home presence now. And that's, yeah, it's killing me for fantasy because I had a massive projection for Matheson, but I didn't think Lane Hutson would eat in as much as he has this season, but he's obviously been electric this year. So yeah, I mean, I'm holding Mike Matheson. There's no question. The ice time is insane, right? He's kind of like he's integral to the Montreal Canadiens resurgence, the hockey that they're playing. He's performing a role and he's doing it really well. Unfortunately, that role is not offensive production at this point, but it can go at any time. Right. He's great. Like, I mean, I think we've all seen it. This guy goes end to end with the best of them. Like he does that. He's an amazing rushing defenseman. He can do that. Like he had 62 points last year on a pretty stinky Montreal Canadiens team, and 28 of those points were on the power play. Right. And he doesn't have power play one. That is a clear, that's going to shave a bunch of points right off the top. So yeah, Lane Hutson, just thank you for your service, but you really wrecked Mike Matheson for me this year. And I'm a little bit steamed about it. I don't
Yeah. Yeah, it has taken some ice time away from Matheson, down from last year. In terms of the average, the IPP is what's really killing him. Like the two previous years in Montreal, 54% IPP, 58% IPP. This year, 37. Like I don't know how we
know.
could have realistically seen Hudson having that huge of an impact. Yeah, just playing insane minutes. Hudson has not necessarily, played terrific defense at all points this season, as you can't really expect a rookie defenseman to in the NHL. But yeah, it does really seem like there's been that relationship between them this year where Matheson is just like the veteran presence, and they're like, Hudson, do what you do best. You're going to lose us some games, but you're going to win us more games, we hope, and just kind of do what you do. And yeah, you got to kind of respect that too, right? Like
Yep.
that's what he's there to do, and the rest has to come through and playing the game. So yeah, where that leaves us with Mike Matheson, the problem that I have personally, I have Matheson in one spot. It's in Kikuffle, 16 team league. I'm not dropping him there. Um, the biggest part of that, quite honestly, is the playoff schedule. If you're in a good spot for playoffs, Montreal does play 11 games, weeks 22 to 24. That's tied for the most with any other team. They play 13 games in weeks 23 through 25, also tied with the most of any team there. So, yeah, are you really going to move away from Mike Matheson when who knows what happens by the end of the
Yeah.
season? Like we've talked about it, Hudson's not a big guy. It wouldn't be shocking to see him wear down a little bit towards the end of the year. And if he gets dinged up, Montreal could just be like, you know what, this isn't the year. If things start to decline, they're not in contention anymore. They just shut Hudson down for the end of the year if he gets a little dinged up, and they're like, Mike Matheson, you know what you're about. You finish out the year for us, right? And then like he could be super valuable in your fantasy playoffs, and that wouldn't be too crazy to think, with especially with this kind of just game played volume at the end there. So that's like one of the reasons I'm holding on in a spot where, I'm in a good spot for playoffs. I don't really have to, like, I kind of have the luxury of holding on, you might
Yeah.
say there. If you're scrapping in Klein for a playoff spot and you're trying to figure out who the next drop is, and you're actually kind of into all your other guys, and Mike Matheson is kind of staring you in the face, like, I'm not gonna in a 12 team league and a 10 team league. I can't really, with any kind of straight face, tell you that next week is going to be better for Mike Matheson,
Mhm.
because I don't really think it will be. It might be slightly better. I think he deserves a little better than what he's got so far, but is he really going to all of a sudden be a 50 plus point difference making defenseman on your squad? I don't think so, without some sort of change in deployment. So, depending on your situation, I can see a variety of ways to treat the Matheson situation. For myself, in that situation, I am hanging on, but I'm not going to fault anybody for having to move away from him if that's where they're at. All right. Well, if we didn't talk about a player that you wanted to hear about, make sure you join me on Monday, 8 p.m. EST, right here on the Apples and Geos YouTube. I'm going to be live streaming the Puzzling Players episode, as I always do. Get your buns in here, get in the comments, ask your questions. I'll be there to help you out. Let's get under the hood now, Blake, with a little guy called Fedor Svechkov.
The
Not
little guy.
Svechnikov. He's not that little. He's taller than I am. I
Uh,
really can't. I can't say anything. He's a solid 6 foot, and I'm a solid 5'11". So, Fedor Svechkov. I wanted to talk about this player because I'm seeing a little bit of a parallel. With this player and another player that we're liking a lot this year. I'll let you guess who it is if you can, but I'll go through the metrics here and you think on it, Blake. But
okay.
over the last 10 games, 4 goals, 2 assists, 12-18 average time on ice. So not getting big time on ice by any stretch. But in these 10 games, he's played in all 10, and he's at least been a consistent presence on the ice. 12th in shots per 60, second in individual scoring chances for per 60. Limited minutes, granted, nobody's contesting that, but huge rate stats that he's putting up. 38th in Corsi 4 per 60, 11th in scoring chances 4 per 60. This is the Preds 2021 first round pick, 19th overall. There's some pedigree there. We looked under the hood before the episode here at Byron Bader. Some reason that's a hard name to say for me tonight, but hockey prospecting, the analytical model that he puts out, there were some interesting comparable names, but the like star potential, the star percentage potential that comes out for Svechkov, it's not crazy. Like you're not talking about a guy who's put up massive numbers under at every level that he's been at, right? Like he's not been that guy. So there is that aspect of it, but having said that, like he's had a good year in the AHL so far. 12 points in 13 games there, 25 shots in 13 games there. Nothing too crazy, but nothing too bad either. Other this season before, 39 points in 57 games in the AHL. So like reasonable stuff for Fedor Svechkov. Now he comes to the NHL. and he's immediately putting up crazy, crazy good rate stats under the hood. So it's a spot where you can see Nashville really needing something to happen here and needing a center to step up and be something for them. And I don't know that it's this year that any of this really comes through. He's probably gonna do more playing on the wing this year. Maybe he matures into a center role for them moving forward. But I think this is a player that might have something cooking here. Might be a look in your dynasty leagues and your deep keepers. Might be a guy that we're getting excited about next year. All right, I've
Sweet.
talked enough. Blake, do you know who the player I'm thinking of who's going off this year that I'm comparing this guy to?
Who is Pavel Dorofiev?
Correct. Yes,
Oh,
that's exactly who I
bang,
was thinking.
buddy. Synergy.
That's how we do it. So yeah, I think that if you look at what Dorofiev put up last year, and one of the reasons I wasn't higher on Dorofiev coming into this year was just I didn't think he was going to get this kind of advancement up the lineup so fast, but he kind of forced his way into it. I don't know if Svechkov is quite to that level. It's a small sample size so far. This could go away, and it wouldn't be
Yeah.
the most shocking thing. But in the small sample size that we have, and it's 10 games, it's not nothing at this point. Yes, it's reduced time on ice, but he has been getting looks with O'Reilly and Nyquist. They gave him that look, making some interesting moves there. In the last little bit, he's been putting up even more scoring. 3 of those 4 goals came in the last 5 games, and an assist he's added in there. Ninth in shots per 63rd in individual scoring chances, 4 per 68th in on ice scoring chances, 4 per 60 over the last 5 here. Yeah, on a team that's really been needing some sort of offensive spark and needing to fill out that top 6 a little bit more. Svechkov feels like somebody they could start to look at, even if it's not for this year where he's really popping off for fantasy purposes. I can definitely see him becoming one of these guys that they're really looking at as needing to take a step for them next year. So I wanted to bring that to everyone's attention to draw that comparison to Pavel
Let's go.
Dorofiev, and we'll see what we get. I just wanted to put that in the universe, so basically, so that if it does hit, that I can say that I was the first one on Svechkov, and then if it doesn't hit, we'll just never talk about it again. Agreed?
Yep, for sure. As long as I'm the second. Oh, yeah.
All right. All right, Blake, let's get into move of the week. Hit me with yours.
Sweet. Yeah, no, I don't have too much, nothing groundbreaking here. But yeah, something I actually want to get your take on is category leagues benching goalies. I'm in, well, a bunch, 4 category leagues, but in 2 of my category leagues, I actually benched my starting goalies just to preserve the rate stats that I had already got. I wasn't able to get the volume stats, so shots against or saves and wins, but I could get the rate stats, which I was already winning. And yeah, I benched those goalies and it worked out in both cases. I was able to secure those categories. And I'm just wondering if that's a strategy that you employ or what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I think that is a pretty key thing in categories, especially in those leagues where you got goals against average and save percentage. Like, I think the most common setup is wins, goals against average, save percentage, and shutouts. Like, I think that's the Yahoo default.
Mhm.
And so, if that's the case, like, shutouts are a coin flip pretty
Yeah.
much all the time. Wins is just like a volume stat on good teams. Like, get a goalie on a good team who's playing most of the games, and you get wins. Like, that's how you do it. But goals against average and save percentage, if you get ahead, it really does become a major, thought thought problem about like, okay, if he has this kind of game from this goalie, like he's playing this guy, he's playing this team, that team's going off, they're pumping a lot of shots, he could get a good save percentage. All these things start to get into your mind. And yeah, if you have the opportunity to preserve 2 categories and you can feel like reasonably confident that if I just put my goalies on the bench, then I'm at least getting these 2 categories, and then the rest of the week I can stream whatever it is if it's just the weekend or whatever, but I can just focus my last 2 ads or something on the other forward or defenseman categories, the skater categories, and I can really focus that down and hopefully, sway another category or 2 there. Absolutely. I think that's
Yeah.
that's the way you want to play it in a lot of spots. So I think that makes a lot of sense. For myself, also talking about categories, also talking about goalies, kind of just leveraging the unpredictability of goalies in a way. I was in the patron league. It's a categories league, and yeah, my opponent went off. They were winning all the skater categories pretty handily, like starting very early in the week. And I was trying to figure out how I was gonna, just flip some categories, start flipping some categories here or there. Had a pretty decent lead in hits and blocks, so I was like, okay, I think I can at least hold on to that. And then we have six skater, three goaltender categories in this league, and the goaltender categories are wins, saves, and save percentage. So yeah, I was looking ahead and I was trying to figure out what I could do, and I was like, okay. Looking ahead, I had Swayman, Talbot, and Nedeljkovic for most of the week, and then Talbot, comes out, has the good game on Thursday, gets to start again on Saturday. I'm like, this is where I need to see how this goes, because if this doesn't go well, then I'm probably, losing save percentage, probably losing wins as well, and I'm just gonna like let it go, and I'm gonna look ahead to next week. But if Talbot really goes off, then I have a really good chance to win all of the goaltending categories if I focus them down the following day. And so Talbot obviously goes off for shutout on that night. No extra points for shutouts in a category league like this with no shutout category. But that really does solidify save percentage for me to the point where I'm like, even if both of his goalies the next day, he has Shesterkin and Blackwood who go against each other, even if both of those goalies have a pretty good game, I'm probably still taking save percentage here. And so I felt pretty confident that I could use my final two ads to just get goaltender streams. So I go out and I stream a couple of goaltenders just to secure saves against his Shesterkin and Blackwood. Shesterkin and Blackwood kind of get into
Barn burner.
barn burner, yeah, 5-4 game there, and it all kind of works out. And I end up taking all three goaltender categories, the two hits and blocks, the peripheral categories, and I walk away with the 5-4 win. So sometimes you got to just kind of evaluate it that way, see where you can make those moves, and yeah, just let yourself be open to the possibility of a Cam Talbot Saturday shutout that kind of changes your week that way, and let your last two ads be kind of dependent on that last performance. So yeah, I don't think it's anything groundbreaking there, but I was like really consciously thinking through what would need to happen from each of my goalies at each point. Should I be dropping these other goalies that are playing for me? Should I be dropping Nedeljkovic? He didn't play on Saturday. Looking ahead to the following week, no, I still don't need to do that. I can still make these other plays. Yeah, I just think it's an interesting thought experiment every single time in
Yeah.
Categories
Yep.
League, and you really do need to kind of get in depth and figure out what needs to happen for you to be able to take these categories. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. You look ahead to the next week. But if it does, then you're ready and set to go with your ads focused on taking home those categories. All right, last order of business, the head-to-head streamer deathmatch. Yeah, it's Adam Fantilli, obviously, taking this thing
Woo-wee.
home for Blake. 29 points on the week. Nick Schmaltz, not a bad week, 19 points. But yeah, nothing compared to the week that Fantilli had. Blake is up 11-5, pretty much cakewalking through this season this year. Anything you want to say for yourself, Blake?
Nate's on the ropes, folks. Oh God, I don't know if it's going to be this week or next, but we got to deliver that knockout blow. I don't know. I'm going to do my best. All right. I feel bad. I feel bad seeing Nate like this.
All right. Well, it is my turn to pick first this week. I went back and forth a lot on this, but I'm gonna go with the four gamer. Even though you have to go pretty far down the list, we're holding ourselves to the line that we set at the beginning of the season when it seemed a lot more sustainable. 25% rostered and under. I'm going
Hey,
with
wait,
Igor
hold on. Wait, hold on. Hold
Sharangovich.
on. Hold on. So I'll tell you, if you want to go with the three gamer, I'll go with the three gamer. All right. I'll give you that right now. Put you on the spot. That's up to you, my man. Let's make it interesting here.
Uh, you want to go with the three gamer? Where did we end up with Troy Terry? He was right on the line, right?
Please tell me he's still there.
Troy Terry. I doubt anything's changed with Troy Terry's rostership. Yeah, he's right on the 25% line. Is Troy Terry in play? This changes my answer.
Oh yeah,
Is
he's
Troy
in play.
Terry in
Yeah,
play?
of course.
All right, then I'm sticking with my guy. I'm sticking with Igor Sharangovich. Sharangovich has 4 points in the last three games here. Played 20 minutes against Winnipeg. Um, yeah, I think he's
Crazy. All
a
right.
fine play
He's
at this point.
rebuffing
So
my offer. That's
yeah,
fine. All right.
I
Well,
I'm basically evaluating it this way, Blake. You're 11-5, and you're offering me something in this game, so you're probably got like you've got some ulterior motives here. So
I
I'm
tell
rejecting your ulterior motives. I'm going with Igor Sharangovich. Who will you take to defend your title?
Well, I have to make an admission here, Nate. I happen to own the Farmer Sports Almanac from Back to the Future 2, and I've been cheating this whole time. I'm sorry about this, Nate, but I don't know. Do you get that reference? Just tell me you do, Nate. Have you seen
Yes,
Back to?
Back to the
Okay,
Future. Yeah.
okay, sweet. All right, I'm taking. Who the hell am I taking? Matty Beniers. Let's go. All right, power play
All right.
one, line one. He's getting the biz. Book it.
All right. I think that's going to do it. If you've made it this far, join the Discord community. Link is in the description below. Come talk fantasy hockey with 1,500 plus other fantasy managers. While you're here, like, rate, review, subscribe, comment. Anything you can do really does help the channel out. If we're providing anything of value to you, it's the best way you can help us. But that's going to be all that we've got for this episode. Hopefully, we brought you some value, helped you get a little bit better at fantasy hockey today. All the advanced stats you heard today came from Natural Stat Trick, a terrific free resource. Many thanks to the band. They're there for supplying music for the podcast. Be sure to check out their Spotify as well. That's it, folks. Much love.